Imagine a town in America where the government ordered everyone to leave, blocked off the roads, and never fully explained what went wrong. Houses were abandoned, streets were sealed, and somehow the place still exists on official maps under a name locals refuse to say out loud. The United States loves its small-town image. Quiet neighborhoods, familiar faces, porch lights, and county fairs. But scattered across the country are towns that don't fit that picture at all. Places where power outages don't explain the flickering lights, where forests feel louder than cities, and where locals avoid certain topics with a simple warning: don't ask. These aren't tourist attractions or haunted houses with gift shops. These are real towns with real histories. Some were poisoned, some were evacuated, some collapsed slowly, and others were erased almost overnight. In this video, we're exposing the top 10 creepiest towns in America, places that look ordinary on a map, but feel deeply unsettling in real life. On GlobeWisp, we go beyond surface-level lists and dig into what actually happened, why people left, and why some towns never came back. Stay till the end, because some of these places aren't just creepy, they're cautionary tales. Let's begin. Number 10. Dudleytown, Connecticut. There's a town in Connecticut where the population dropped to 0, and the unease never really left. No electricity, no residents, no welcome signs, just forest slowly taking back what was abandoned. Dudleytown began like many early colonial settlements, with small homes, farmland, and family names carved into stone. It sits in a narrow valley now known as Dark Entry Forest, a name that already hints at what followed. At its peak in the mid-1700s, a few dozen families lived here, farming the land and building a quiet community. Over time, problems began piling up. Crops failed repeatedly, disease spread, and stories emerged of residents losing their sight, their sanity, or simply disappearing. One person reportedly wandered into the woods and never returned. Another died after a fall, screaming until the end. Historians point to poor soil and isolation as likely causes, while local legends blame a curse linked to the Dudley family's misfortune in England. What's often overlooked is that later attempts to resettle the area also failed, even by people who dismissed the curse entirely. By the mid-1800s, Dudleytown was completely abandoned. Today, it remains officially closed to the public. The land is privately owned and managed by a trust, trespassing laws are enforced, and development is prohibited. Emergency services still report occasional calls from hikers describing panic or sudden disorientation. There's no tourism infrastructure, no amenities, and no revenue, just warnings. One hiker described it best by saying nothing actually happened there, and that was exactly what made it unsettling. Dudleytown isn't disturbing because something jumps out at you. It's disturbing because nothing does. The forest is silent, the air feels heavy, and the absence of sound makes your own thoughts louder. Trails are poorly maintained, footing is unstable, phone signal drops quickly, and before long, you become painfully aware of how alone you are. Number 9. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. In 1966, residents of a quiet riverside town in West Virginia reported seeing a massive winged creature with glowing red eyes. 1 year later, the town's main bridge collapsed, killing 46 people. Whether coincidence or something more, that moment permanently changed how people view Point Pleasant. Today, the town looks calm on the surface. Historic buildings, old-fashioned street lamps, murals, and a slow pace of life. But once evening sets in, the atmosphere shifts. Fog rolls in from the river, sounds feel muted, and the town carries a strange heaviness that visitors often notice immediately. Point Pleasant is most famous for the Mothman, a figure that has become part of local identity. There's even a museum and statue dedicated to it. But residents say the unease here goes beyond one legend. The town sits near former military sites, old industrial areas, and locations tied to Cold War-era testing, adding layers to its reputation. Population remains under 4,000, and it has stayed that way for decades. Crime rates are low, but that doesn't fully explain the discomfort many people feel. Median home prices sit around $127,000, making it relatively affordable. The local job market is limited, mostly centered on services, retail, and tourism tied to the town's reputation. People who move here often describe it as quiet at first, then unsettling. Sounds from the woods carry farther than they should. The river feels like it's always watching. Locals insist the town remembers what happened and never really let it go. Point Pleasant isn't chaotic or dangerous in a traditional sense. It's unsettling because it feels like something unfinished, like a story that stopped mid-sentence and never resolved. Number 8. Kaskaskia, Illinois. There's a town in Illinois that you can't reach from Illinois? To get there, you have to drive through Missouri first. That alone tells you something went very wrong. This town is Kaskaskia, once the first capital of Illinois, now reduced to a place with barely a dozen residents. What happened wasn't a crime wave or a sudden disaster. It was geography. Over time, the Mississippi River shifted its course, slowly cutting Kaskaskia off from the rest of the state and leaving it stranded on the wrong side of the river. At one point, this was a thriving settlement with thousands of residents, trade routes, and political importance. Today, the population sits at around 12 people. That's not a typo. Entire streets are gone. Buildings have vanished, and flooding has erased large portions of the town. There are no stores, no gas stations, no real job market, and no local economy to speak of. Median income data is barely trackable because so few people live there. Employment requires commuting at least 20 to 30 minutes to nearby towns. Crime is technically zero, which isn't surprising when nearly everyone knows everyone else. Living in Kaskaskia means extreme isolation. Flooding is frequent, roads wash out, and emergency services are far away. The quiet isn't peaceful, it's heavy. You step outside and hear nothing but wind, river water, and the sound of a place that was slowly erased instead of destroyed. Kaskaskia isn't creepy because of legends or ghosts. It's unsettling because it shows how easily a town can disappear while still technically existing. Number 7. Taos, New Mexico. There's a sound in Taos that no one has been able to fully explain. Locals call it the hum. Scientists have studied it, skeptics argue about it, and some residents say it slowly gets inside your head. Taos is known as an artsy high desert town near the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, filled with adobe homes, galleries, and wide-open skies. On the surface, it feels peaceful and creative. But people who stay longer often describe something else, a constant sense of unease. The hum isn't heard by everyone, but for those who do hear it, it's described as a low, steady vibration, like distant machinery with no source. Beyond the sound, Taos has a long history tied to ancient Pueblo culture, spiritual beliefs, and unexplained experiences tied to the land itself. The town has a population of around 6,400 people. Violent crime rates sit higher than most U.S. cities of similar size. Median rent is roughly $1,500 per month, and housing options are limited. The job market centers mostly on tourism, art, and seasonal work. Many residents report feelings of isolation, heightened anxiety, or vivid dreams after living here for extended periods. Some attribute this to altitude, others to the desert environment, and some believe the land itself carries a kind of energy. The Taos Pueblo people have long described the area as spiritually sensitive rather than dangerous, a place that demands respect. Taos isn't creepy in a jump scare way. It's unsettling because it's quiet, ancient, and watchful. You don't feel threatened here. You feel observed, as if the place itself is paying attention. Number 6. Utqiagvik, Alaska. There's a town in America where the sun disappears for more than 2 months straight. No sunrise, no sunset, just darkness and whatever your mind does with it. Utqiagvik sits above the Arctic Circle on the edge of the Arctic Ocean, making it the northernmost city in the United States. It's remote, quiet, and surrounded by tundra and ice. But when winter arrives, the lack of daylight changes everything. The polar night lasts about 65 days, typically from November through January. During that time, residents report disrupted sleep, mood swings, anxiety, and unusually vivid dreams. Local health and emergency services acknowledge that winter is harder here, not only because of weather, but because darkness affects judgment and mental health. Utqiagvik has a population of roughly 4,400 people. The cost of living is about twice the national average, driven by transportation costs and isolation. Average rent ranges from $1,500 to $2,000 per month for very basic housing. The job market centers on government, utilities, healthcare, and oil support services. Violent crime rates are higher than the national average, with noticeable winter spikes. Daily life requires preparation and routine. Simple tasks become more difficult when temperatures drop far below zero and wind chill feels physically aggressive. Stepping outside can freeze eyelashes together, and breathing cold air feels sharp. Despite all this, Utqiagvik has a strong sense of community. People check on each other because they have to. Survival here depends on cooperation. Utqiagvik isn't creepy because of legends or ghosts. It's unsettling because humans adapt to extreme darkness faster than you'd expect, and once you do, the dark starts to feel permanent. Number 5. Helltown, Ohio. There's a place in Ohio that was effectively erased by the government, and the rumors never left. Locals call it Helltown, though its official name was Boston Village. On the surface, it looks like a quiet wooded area near Boston Township. Look closer, and you'll find boarded-up houses, sealed roads, warning signs, and buildings left behind exactly where people walked away from them. In the 1972, the federal government began buying out properties and forcing residents to leave, officially to create a national park. What unsettled people wasn't just the relocation, but what came after. No one was allowed to move back in. Homes were left standing but unused. Churches were abandoned. Roads were blocked. Over time, stories spread about chemical spills, contaminated land, and unexplained activity in the surrounding woods. None of it was ever fully clarified, which allowed the speculation to grow. Locals began reporting strange symbols carved into buildings, unusual behavior from wildlife, and repeated sightings of black vehicles monitoring the area. Whether those stories are true or exaggerated, the lack of transparency fueled decades of paranoia. Even today, the area carries an uneasy reputation. Helltown isn't officially dangerous, but it feels watched. Fog settles thick through empty streets, silence feels intentional, and the absence of normal life makes every sound stand out. It's not the kind of place where something jumps out at you. It's the kind of place where your instincts tell you not to stay long. Helltown remains one of those locations where the unanswered questions are more unsettling than any confirmed explanation. Number 4. Marfa. Every night near Marfa, strange lights appear in the desert. They hover, drift, split apart, and vanish without a clear source. Locals have watched them for decades, and no explanation has fully settled the debate. Some say it's atmospheric conditions, others suggest vehicle reflections from miles away, and a few insist it's something else entirely. Marfa itself is a small, remote town in West Texas that mixes minimalist art, old military history, and wide-open desert. During the day, it feels calm and intentional. At night, the isolation becomes obvious. The town sits hours from major cities, cell service is unreliable, and the silence can feel overwhelming. Marfa has a population of roughly 1,800 people. Crime rates are low, and rent can be relatively cheap, sometimes under $700 a month if you can find a place. The local economy revolves around tourism, art installations, and seasonal visitors. What unsettles people isn't danger, it's the atmosphere. Shadows stretch farther than expected. The wind carries unfamiliar sounds, and the lights appear when you least expect them. Visitors often arrive curious and leave unsettled, unable to explain why. Marfa isn't threatening, but it feels detached from normal time and space. It's the kind of place where nothing obvious goes wrong, yet staying too long makes you feel like something quietly changed. Number 3. Nome, Alaska. Nome sits at the edge of the world, and it feels like it. There are no roads connecting it to the rest of Alaska. You get in by plane, boat, or sheer determination. It's cold, isolated, and visually stunning in a way that makes the quiet feel heavier. Over the years, more than 20 people have reportedly vanished from the surrounding wilderness without clear explanations. No bodies, no solid leads, just people who never came back. What unsettles outsiders is how calmly locals talk about it. Nome has a population of around 3,500 people. Violent crime rates are significantly higher than the national average, while property crime is also common. Average rent sits around $1,300 a month, which surprises most people given how remote the town is. Groceries and basic supplies cost far more than on the mainland due to shipping and weather delays. The job market is limited, centered around government work, healthcare, and seasonal industries. Living in Nome means constant exposure to extreme conditions. Long winters, unpredictable storms, and vast stretches of empty land where help is far away. The isolation can play tricks on people. Sounds carry strangely. Visibility changes fast. And when someone doesn't return from a hike or a trip outside town, it doesn't always make headlines. Life simply continues. Nome isn't creepy because of legends or myths. It's unsettling because of how easily people can disappear and how normal that has become. The land is unforgiving. The distances are vast. And once you step beyond the town limits, you're on your own. Number 2. Bodie. Bodie is a ghost town where visitors are warned not to take anything, not even a rock. The warning isn't symbolic. Park officials regularly receive apology letters from tourists who removed small items and later blamed a streak of bad luck for everything from car accidents to house fires. Bodie was once a booming mining town in the late 1800s. Then it emptied almost overnight and was left to decay exactly as it stood. Today, it's preserved in a state of arrested decline. No electricity, no residents, and more than 100 structures still standing, frozen in time. Officially, the population is 0. Elevation sits above 8,000 feet, and the weather shifts quickly, adding to the sense of exposure. Rangers maintain the site, but allow buildings to deteriorate naturally, which means floors creak, windows rattle, and silence carries weight. The so-called Bodie curse isn't folklore locals laugh off. It's documented enough that the park catalogs returned items with handwritten apologies. Walking the streets feels intrusive, like you're interrupting something unfinished. Bodie isn't frightening because of what happens there. It's unsettling because of what remains, untouched, watching, and waiting. You don't live in Bodie. You pass through, carefully. Number 1. Pitcher. Oklahoma. Pitcher isn't just a ghost town. It's a place the government officially gave up on. Once a booming mining town built on lead and zinc, Pitcher was home to families, schools, churches, and a growing community. Over time, mining waste piled up into massive hills of toxic material known as chat. Wind carried lead dust through the air. Water became contaminated. Sinkholes opened beneath homes. Eventually, the damage became impossible to ignore. The Environmental Protection Agency stepped in, declared the town unsafe, and began relocating residents. Homes were bought out, condemned, and demolished. Then a tornado tore through what remained, accelerating the collapse. Today, Pitcher's population is effectively gone, reduced to only a handful of holdouts at most. Crime rates are technically 0, not because it's safe, but because almost no one lives there. Lead exposure rates were historically extreme, with studies showing dangerously high levels in children. Schools were shut down and left behind with desks, books, and supplies still inside. Streets lead to nowhere. Playgrounds sit abandoned under layers of toxic dust. The air itself is considered hazardous. Pitcher isn't unsettling because of legends or rumors. It's unsettling because everything that went wrong is documented, measured, and confirmed. This isn't a mystery. It's the result of industrial neglect, delayed response, and a town sacrifice to contamination. You can still drive through Pitcher, but there's nothing left to return to. It stands as a reminder that some places don't fade away. They're erased. Those were the creepiest towns in America. Places that look ordinary on the map but carry stories most people never hear. Some were abandoned, some were erased, and some are still standing for reasons that don't fully make sense. If this breakdown changed how you see small towns, hit like so the algorithm knows Globe Wisp exists. Subscribe for more deep dives into places people overlook. And remember, not every quiet road leads somewhere safe.